Speak about Democrat on Democrat crime, and I want to know how unusual what we're seeing right now about how Democrats feel about Democrats in Congress is. Take a look at this. This is a trend line going back through the years, midterm elections in which there's a GOP president. Look at this. In 2006, Dems' net approval of congressional Democratic leaders was plus 28. You go back to the last midterm, look at that, plus 19. Very much on the positive side. The bottom has fallen out. The bottom has fallen out. Minus 4 points. That is Democrats' own net approval of their own congressional leaders. Even Democrats don't like their own leaders.
I've been telling you guys for a while that the party of the donkey is nothing but an illusion. And this poll from Harry Enton, who is one of the very, very few in the mainstream media that I somewhat trust, to his credit, Harry Enton seems to be fair to both Republicans and doofus Democrats, which, as you guys know, that is rare for anyone at CNN, the network that is known for polishing the donkey turd. It's rare for anyone at CNN to actually be fair and honest. But this poll further proves that the party of the donkey is an illusion. In both 2006 and 2018, the illusion was still going strong. At that point, Democrats weren't really comfortable enough to remove their mask and fully reveal themselves as communist. When you're initially dating a woman, she's naturally gonna be on her best behavior. Same thing with women who are dating men. During the first 60, maybe even 90 days of the relationship, you are presenting your best self. But as the relationship progresses, you start revealing more and more of who you truly are. You can only disguise yourself for so long. It is impossible to live a lie because the truth always comes to the light. You meet this lovely woman on Bumble. You are incredibly attracted to her. She is elegant. She seems to have good values. 6 months into the relationship, she is dropping hints that she wants you to pop the question. You're giving it serious consideration, but then you drop by her apartment unannounced one day to surprise her with flowers, and you discover that she is watching the Yentas on The View. To make matters worse, she's got a personalized bottle of Whoopi Goldberg's Boodle Breeze. So her apartment smells like the whoopee cushion's toxic ass gas. Or if you're a woman and you think you've been dating Prince Charming, you eventually discover that he dresses like Mrs. Doubtfire and he's one of the top earning accounts on Lonely Man's. At some point, the mask will come off. For doofus Democrats, the illusion was busted in 2020 after the death of George Floyd. The party of the donkey noticed that both sides were united in their outrage, and they thought this was the perfect time to reveal their communist ideas. Defund the police, Orange Man bad! Confusing kindergartners over something as simple as their gender. Have you noticed recently that the gay pride is trying to make a comeback? Have you noticed that doofus Democrats are once again begging us to taste the rainbow? You want to know why? They see the Trumpers' approval ratings plummeting, and they think this means that America is ready to fully embrace the woke wiener. Unfortunately, though, for doofus Democrats, just because people are angry with the Trumper, that does not mean America is ready to ride the donkey. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Let's go and get to the sponsor for today's video, my good friends at Antelope Hill Publishing. As a content creator, one of the primary requirements of my job is reading. I spend a lot of time reading, and I think it's important to read a variety of viewpoints to figure out the truth of an issue. Unfortunately, a lot of mainstream publishers, they provide limited options, or they refuse to publish authors that don't fit their desired narrative. That is where Antelope Hill Publishing steps in. Antelope Hill is proud to be a free speech publisher that offers a large variety of books that are hard to find in the mainstream. For example, they've got The Transgender Industrial Complex. This book goes into detail exposing the organizations that funded the transgender movement. It explains how they operate and why they focused on promoting their ideology to kids. Another is The American Regime, which was written by a former January 6th prisoner that was pardoned by Donald Trump. It examines the historical and political reasons for modern government tyranny. Antelope Hill Publishing also sources hard-to-find historical books, so you can learn about history from original sources. There are countless options available, so click the link in the description or the pinned comment below. Use my promo code BTL10, BTL10. Receive 10% off your first purchase with Antelope Hill Publishing. According to Fox News, there is a quiet shift happening right now in America. Thankfully, this quiet shift is encouraging. Young Americans are turning to faith. Churches are seeing drastic increases in attendance. I attend one of the larger churches in the city. When we started going back 2 years ago, the church was about half full, maybe 3/4 full on a Sunday. Now, it's packed every Sunday morning. What's interesting about this shift is who is going to church. Several months ago, CNN claimed that Gen Z is the most conservative generation in decades. This report from Fox News, it confirms that because the kids in Gen Z, they are driving this increase in church attendance. The question is why? My personal theory, I think the constant lies and propaganda from the mainstream media, along with doofus Democrats trying to convince Gen Z to become Gen Z LGBT, trying to convince young men to surgically remove their cucumber to become young women, trying to convince young women not to have children so they can be a girl boss. I think the onslaught of lies has convinced Gen Z to search for the truth. For starters, they grew up seeing how miserable mom was being a girl boss. But when you're constantly bombarded with lies, when you're constantly being told things that you know are not true, you have this natural inclination to find the truth. You have a natural inclination to find values to build your own personal foundation. This is one of the reasons that Democrats are pushing so hard for immigration. They know if they lose Gen Z, which is a generation they have spent the last 5 or 10 years trying to indoctrinate, they know if they lose Gen Z, it's over. These kids in Gen Z, they're smart. They're a hell of a lot smarter than us millennials. My generation, we were fooled by the illusion. We were fooled by the lie that you have to go 6 figures into debt to receive a college indoctrination. We were fooled by the lie that the party of the donkey was the party of the people. Unfortunately for doofus Democrats, Gen Z is the party pooper. Of course, it was easier for Gen Z to see through the illusion because Democrats voluntarily removed the mask. They finally revealed themselves to be communist. They've revealed themselves to be the party of misery. You don't have to take my word for it. Uncle KC always comes with the proof. Watch it for yourself.
It wraps a woman's worth up in her ovaries.
Bottom line, if you're not paying my bills, you don't get to tell me what I do with my uterus.
I think it's just really reckless to be suggesting that people should have children when you now know in this country there's this affordability crisis, and for a 2-person household, a married household, you need over $400,000 for childcare. Over $400,000. Most people don't make over $400,000. So she's advocating for people to be born into poverty, people not being able to feed those children, people not being able to educate those children, and people not being able to house those children.
Marriage is legalized slavery.
If I'm thinking about slavery and I'm thinking about marriage, there are 2 different images that come into my head.
Absolutely not. I don't think, I don't know how you don't. Man is, especially if he's expecting you to be a trad wife, you might as well pull out a whip.
There are young people watching who might be wanting to get married. What would you say to them?
Don't.
For starters, it's ironic that the Yentas on The View are claiming that marriage and parenthood will cause insurmountable debt, but they'll encourage young women to donate $100,000 to the indoctrination center known as Woke U, and in return on that massive investment, young women start their lives in financial misery along with mental misery because they've spent the last 4 years being convinced to believe lies. The problem for doofus Democrats, no matter how hard they try, you can't change biology. You can't change human nature. For some reason, the party of the donkey has convinced itself that they are more powerful, more convincing than God. According to Leslie Jones, "Hey ladies, it's me, Leslie. Marriage is bad, bad, bad. It's modern day slavery." Damn near every young woman in America dreams of getting married when they are children, and this is assuming that they haven't been indoctrinated by their parents, mom and mom. When they are children, they dream of daddy walking them down the aisle. They dream of Prince Charming standing there smiling, hoping that he is breathless as she makes her way to the altar. Most young women, they have a natural desire to be mothers. I guarantee you, if you conducted an anonymous poll and you gave women truth serum, the overwhelming majority of women, even woke white women, they would tell you that they prefer to stay home with the kids. In a perfect world, they would rather stay home than go to a job that they hate. The vast majority of stress that women deal with, most of it's not coming from home, it's coming from work. You know, back in the 90s, everyone already knew that wrestling was fake. But the creative was so good at the time, there were still questions as to whether some angles were legitimate, were real. I remember when the NWO debuted in the mid-90s, people legitimately thought it was real. They actually thought that the WWF was invading WCW to take over. Hell, there was an angle where the NWO invaded WCW on live television. They were beating the hell out of people, and people in, I want to say it was in Panama City, Florida, or somewhere in Florida. People in the local area who were watching it on live TV, they called the cops because they thought the brawl that they were witnessing was real. Back then, wrestlers went through the trouble to live their gimmicks. If you saw The Undertaker at the airport, he looked and acted the same way that he did on television. Today, the WWE has peeled back the curtain. They're showing how angles are produced. They're showing what goes on backstage, and it has completely ruined the mystique. The illusion has been busted. Magic is the same way. Once you know how a magic trick is done, it doesn't have the same appeal. It's the same thing with Democrats. To their credit, they are brilliant at polishing the turd. Democrats are experts at making themselves appealing. But once the mask is removed, once the polish melts away, you realize that the party of the donkey is nothing but a steaming turd. It's a lie. And now that the illusion has been busted, there is no going back, which is why Democrats have record low approval ratings, even though Donald Trump has never been less popular. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.